America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network, website thisweekinamerica.us, talking about the law and when do you really need an attorney. With us is Michael Douglas. He's an attorney specializing in criminal law as well as family law. The website for Michael is thedouglaslawfirm.com. Michael, welcome to This Week in America. Great to have you with us.
Nice to be with you, Rick.
You know, I'm looking on the website, and there's so many things you can do by yourself online. You can either get free information, you can get free forms, you can pay a nominal fee and get the forms that you need. And it's so confusing now because you talk to some people that have gone that route and found out later I really didn't do things properly, or I actually went into a court situation and they threw out the documents because they weren't done as they should have been. When do people really actually need an attorney?
Well, that's a good question, Rick, and I think that the correct answer is at the initial stages of any sort of legal dispute, any sort of will, any sort of the beginning of the process of a legal process, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the law is obviously very complex, and like you said, there are resources out there available for individuals to get online or go to the library, find it in books, but that individual person, I don't believe, realizes that they're going to be held to the same standards as someone with a law degree.
So actually, if you end up in a court situation or end up with a judge or a mediator of some type, the fact that you're a layperson and you downloaded a form online doesn't cut any slack. You're still being held to the same accountability as someone in the legal profession.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, the judge might be a little more lenient, or the mediator might explain things in a different way to someone representing themselves, or what they call in the business pro se. But at the end of the day, or at the end of the hearing, so to speak, you're going to be held to the same standard, meaning you have to know the different laws of evidence, contract, whatever type of law or legal environment that you're in, you're going to be held to those standards.
For example, if you're doing a will and you think it's a simple will and I can get these forms online, the form that you may download and plug in your information is being used possibly by 1,500 people that same day all across the country. So the assumption is sort of one size fits all. My case is the same as the other 1,499 people using this form. From representing people and being in the court and dealing with the law every day, is it that simple, one size fits all?
It's really not. I mean, everybody might have similarities in their particular fact pattern or their particular issue, but there's always going to be a little nuance or a little niche or just something that's going to be different than the other 14,000 people that the language in the will or whatever contract needs to be tweaked or reworked to fit your particular situation.
You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network, website thisweekinamerica.us. With us is Michael Douglas with the Douglas Law Firm, website thedouglaslawfirm.com. You can log on to our website and link up to that information. Talking about a pretty basic topic, which is when you should get an attorney. And I guess maybe it comes down to asking the question, what's at stake for you? Because in some cases you're talking about finances, and others you're actually talking about your freedom or your liberty. Is that a pretty good place to start? What's at stake? What if I do this wrong? What are the consequences?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely correct, Rick. And it in my mind, everything's at stake. Because if you, say, for example, in a criminal matter, if you represent yourself, you've been charged with a crime, and let's not forget, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. But if you've been charged with a crime and you think you want to represent yourself, you do run the risk of, if you do something wrong or you don't know the legal rules that you should, you could go to prison, you could go to the local jail, there's a whole host of things that could happen to you because you didn't get representation.
Well, you read something from time to time as simple as traffic violations, and you sort of laugh, that's no big deal. Suddenly they find out you've got a number of these, and you're being sued or arrested or called into court, and the fines are pretty serious at that point. So even something as simple as a traffic ticket, depending on the circumstances, could require a phone call to an attorney for representation.
Absolutely, because on a local level, let's just say, for example, individual A gets a traffic ticket, and they go in to represent themselves, and they admit to that traffic ticket, and they pay a fee. Well, maybe if they called an attorney, there might be a program out there that they could enroll in and keep that ticket off their driving record, and that might, and here in Allen County, it's called the infraction deferred program. That's just an example, but so those are types of things where a quote-unquote regular person wouldn't necessarily know about unless they would hire an attorney and talk to an attorney.
Got about a minute left. Time going by too quickly talking about when you need an attorney. Let's say, okay, I'd feel more comfortable dealing with an attorney. How do I go about finding one in 45 seconds?
Well, there's obviously the internet is a huge method of search engine capabilities. The phone book, word of mouth. There's pretty much all sorts of types of advertising, Chamber of Commerce. But those are the main, I would say the internet and phone book are the primary resources.
And
for
if
that.
people are concerned, boy, I don't want to get involved in a long, drawn-out process with an attorney. I don't want to pay all of these fees. I assume that's something as an attorney, when you work with a client, you pretty much tell them up front, this is the time requirement, this is what it's going to cost you.
Correct. And there's always situations where you can work with the client on fees. If they're running in difficulties, you can, there's different options that can be taken.
Excellent. Michael Douglas has been our guest on This Week in America. He's a specialist in criminal law as well as family law. His website, thedouglaslawfirm.com. Our website is thisweekinamerica.us. You've been listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.